just make sure that when you speak, you have your speaker on. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm going to bring the meeting to order. I don't believe we have public comment. We really never do. We're going to skip over our guest speaker because I think they must be running behind. We have the Early Learning Coalition coming, and I confirmed and spoke to them, so hopefully they're not lost. I would like to do the review and approval of the meeting recaps for both the month of September and the month of October. I hope you all had a chance to review those, and if so, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, India. Second by Mindy. Is anybody taking notes on this, or should I wait? I'm gonna write it down. Yeah, here, take this one. That one's weird. India and Mindy, thank you so much. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. I don't have a chair's report, although I just want to thank you guys for making this a priority today because it is important. We have two things to vote on, as you might have noticed. One being the all-important Women's Hall of Fame to keep us on track so we can make our announcement and get that going. And then our calendar for next year, which is basically the same as it always is. So thank you for making the time. Friends of the COSW financial report, Tatiana and Joanne.
Still not.
I don't think anything has really changed.
Yeah, no, after today. Yes, not a whole lot of activity. Your PO box renewed last month. That's about all the expenses you had. So after today, though, we'll start to gear up and it'll get more detailed. So if you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, and speaking of that, so the Hall of Fame falls a lot to Joanne, unfortunately for Joanne, but it is a lift for everybody. So we're really just a reminder that we want to make sure that at the very least, y'all are buying tickets, your organization is buying a table or sponsoring. So that's part of what makes that a fundraiser and not just a fun event. I guess we can vote. Let's go ahead to the Women's Hall of Fame and we'll do the voting on that. So I believe do you have ballots for us? Yeah, I think she's got them right there. Yes. Mm-hmm.
We did have one package that had one of our commissioners as part of the package.
Oh, I did not notice that.
And so
Huh.
that.
As a not as a nominator, as a reference.
So I think we need to address that because we made a hard kind of decision on that because it's, yes.
So I wonder how clear, yeah. Do we feel like that's really, really clear in the instructions? Because we know they can't nominate, that's obvious, but is it really, really clear they can't be a reference either?
It may not be crystal clear, so that's
Okay.
why I brought it forward, just because, again, those of us who've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Hash that out, but there's probably a lack of clarity that we should not be named. And if, obviously there are, commissioners who are behind the scenes saying, oh,
Right.
which is fine, but like actually be part of the package creates conflict.
Okay, so I'm going to pull that up because I want to see how strong the language is.
At minimum, I think that the minutes should reflect that we acknowledge it publicly and that everybody's aware. And moving forward, we'll tweak process to make sure that it's crystal clear that no sitting commissioner should.
Even beyond there at all, yeah. Hey, good morning.
I don't think that this
Just to clarify that it was just that we're talking about a commissioner writing a letter, not one of us, right? No, an actual commissioner on the commission has asked much. So one of a COSW member, right? Yes.
Oh, thinking it was the BOCC.
No, sorry. No, and COSW member again. That's not me.
So do you want me to check or are we just going to kind of let the record reflect that we saw that and it was an issue. The other thing too, I mean, we have a new staff, so I think that under Beth, this probably wouldn't have happened. So I'll make sure to note with Carmen that she should have probably caught that. I know, I didn't notice. I'm having trouble getting on the internet. I know, that's what I'm worried. And so, yeah, that's probably what I'm doing too.
And I probably read every single thing. I know, actually, no, everyone except for one person. Who had the least time, but this is really hard.
I was gonna say, this is a tough one. I was so worried because we had like 2 nominations for the longest time, and then all of a sudden we have 9, and they're like, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Probably the best
Yeah, it's like a really great match. So it's gonna be hard, in other words. All right, well, just for the record, I'm gonna check and see what it says, okay?
Could I just ask, I know, and maybe it's just in my own mind, but when I think of the Women's Hall of Fame, I think of women who are maybe more seasoned and have had a lot of accomplishments in their life rather than someone who's a little younger. I mean, is that
Well, that's
just my
on the
own
nominators, though, right?
perception?
Yeah.
Right, because I
Okay.
think it's too, like, because they're going up on a, permanent installation
Exactly.
in the library, when some random person reads that, the bio up there, it needs to be either like trailblazer, like they're the
Exactly.
first woman to ever do
That's-
X, or so accomplished in their career, the opus of work in their life.
It's just super
or
extraordinary,
their
yeah.
volunteer, right,
commitment that, that people go, wow, yeah, that person, I see why they're on the Hall of Fame.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was,
Yeah,
oh, the way I perceived.
that's what helped me make my
Me
decisions too.
Exactly.
But I think it's up to the nominator, right? And the person who's being
Yes.
nominated, if they feel like they're ready for
Right.
that, they can nominate themselves.
but
And
I
it's just
think-
on us to decide.
Yeah, but I think we probably need to put some more language in that really, again, the nominators are going to nominate, but I think probably we'll keep clarifying because there's wonderful people and
Yes.
they do really good work in the community, but, they're
I tend to think as well that it's somebody
50 years
who
old
is
and,
not-
right,
and
More
somebody who's no
seasoned.
longer,
Yeah.
one of the other
Experienced.
organizations that I'm involved with, it's someone that we think they're done, you know what I mean?
right.
And we have some people that not only are not done, but they're still in their role. So,
Right.
that affected my decision as well. So unfortunately, guys, we're going to have to ignore that because all it says is current members of the CSW cannot nominate a candidate or be nominated as a candidate. And that's all it says.
Yeah.
So we got to let that one go.
So I think we should tighten that up because the whole idea was to create, the intention was to create so
Yeah.
that, yeah,
Agreed.
Yeah.
Totally agreed.
Yep.
So I don't know, are you guys taping this? Okay, good. Because there's a lot of conversation going on and I know you're doing a ton of things.
Turn all of these on.
yeah,
Okay,
it's so much
good
easier.
idea. Good idea. Another thing I noted, which is really funny because it was like the Yay Awards, is that you had like spouses and children and stuff nominated.
Right, yes.
So I found
Merry
that to be
Christmas,
also
Mom.
interesting as,
Yeah.
which didn't necessarily, and if it's somebody really worthy, it didn't necessarily change my mind, but I just thought that was
Okay.
funny because I hadn't seen that before either.
Right, and not always disclosing that
Yeah.
either, so.
Do we
you have to-
ask? I don't know that we
Um,
asked.
You-
Do we
no.
ask who it is?
But, so if you know them, then you know. I'm like, oh, that's your daughter.
Or if their last name
That's
is
your
the same.
husband, right? Yeah.
That's one of them. All right, so I think this was good discussion. Anything else on tightening up the process? I think staff did a terrific job of getting the word out, as y'all
Yeah.
did, and then
Yes.
turning it around really fast, so thank you
Yes,
so much for
and is
that.
hard
Bravo.
work. Thank you.
Were y'all satisfied with the way that those nominations were sent to you? I kind of didn't mind them all being separate.
Oh, I
I don't
liked
usually
it. I
love a
liked
lot
it.
of emails,
it,
but I
yeah.
thought that was actually good.
Yeah.
We're sure we didn't lose anybody else in the system. That did worry me a little bit.
Ms. Chair, we did receive 2 other nominations, but one was after the deadline and the other one did not qualify because they were not residents of Hillsborough County.
Yeah.
So overall, we received 11.
Okay, great. Okay,
Before we vote, may
Yeah,
I just
please.
make just for the purpose, just for the purposes of think it's important for us to acknowledge that even though we could select 3, we don't have to select 3. And that was that and this is like the Old Man River over here, historical. Some years we had to remind ourselves that we didn't need to force ourselves to pick a class of 3.
Right.
And some years we just had 2. And they were 2 highly qualified candidates where there was no question whatsoever that they were appropriate. And that might be another tightening up the process thing, because in her instructions, she said select 3. And then in like the second paragraph, it said up to 3. So, yay.
Yay.
That traffic is no
Sorry,
joke.
you were good. I'm so sorry about that.
So,
I think that's a very valid point, because
Yeah.
this is a really important honor, as we just sort of pointed out, and we want to make sure that
so you don't want to.
You don't want to dilute
force
it.
the
And you
issue.
don't want to diminish the honorees over time.
So how would you recommend, so if we don't feel strongly enough about 3 personally, we just put down 2 and then it goes from there?
I'm voting
or-
for, I plan to come to the meeting to vote only for 2.
Okay,
And I wanted to kind of more broadly explain why I am just voting for 2 this year.
We can also see when the votes are tallied, because it ends up being how many people, if there's a natural breaking point.
Yeah, you can only do 3. Or you can do, how many can you do on here?
Only 3.
Up
Up
to
to
3.
Up to
three.
3, okay.
up to 3,
Right.
but, all right, so feel free, I guess, to go ahead and do this. And these are we saying who we are in here? I guess we are.
You have to.
We have to.
It's public record.
All
Which
right.
is painful.
Oh, I didn't put my name on mine.
Oh, you gave me the wrong one.
It's at the bottom.
I looked down, oh.
We should.
My name's at the bottom.
You're, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Carmen, I'm not sure if I put my name on mine or not. Okay. If you find one without, it might be mine.
Did you read it?
I did.
I know, it took forever. My qualifier was
Did everybody vote?
No.
No, Mary Pat, I'm
Yeah.
like, sure.
And the challenge is that when there's
I know.
there's 2 that are 90 and 95, so they're gonna sit there. I was in my 30s when I had them. It's just up on a wall because they were political bundles, right? I don't know.
What's his name?
Oh, you know, I haven't even looked at my emails this morning. Did you?
And I don't know what it is.
Okay.
And whatever
It's
it is.
fancy.
But he's Republican Democrat. Heavily influential, but you put him on a women's hall of fame for what? And I know what.
And you know what, they just keep
Yeah, but like, one of
we
them.
need the heart
So
into.
Nancy's
I used to
the first,
when our
the woman and
children
the
were
first
alive, dressed
ever,
undersized
yeah. And while I would have liked
They
to
don't wear what you want.
nominate her,
Oh my
but
goodness.
she's still
You're-
first
he's so
ever. She's
handsome.
Latina.
He's a big guy.
And so
She's
I
the
was-
one that she's tall too.
Yeah,
And then the other one
yeah.
I voted for, Sherry Howard, because
Yeah, there's no way he's gonna be
Yeah.
short.
that's pretty amazing what she does.
Those were the 3.
Yeah.
Find a spot or
But I would have liked all of
make.
them to be a little older. You know?
I mean, they may come to the table with some of it. I haven't, there's like, that's discussions after we get voted. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to get them involved when we don't, do you know what I mean? It's just one more seat to the table. You can come to it, but correct, yeah. Yeah. Perfect. I don't, the 24th floor, right? 24th? The 2 before, so. Baby pictures.
Cute.
I mean, really.
Yeah, they're taking a lot of liberties while he can't talk.
Oh. Morning. I love it.
Do you have your vote?
Funniest one.
That's amazing. Oh, how sweet.
Tap it.
She has a grandson.
Oh. Is he in a pumpkin?
Pumpkin.
Here,
Or
Is
is
it
it
not
or
the
is it a
sweetest
ceramic
ever?
one that they stick babies
That's
in?
a real.
That's a real pumpkin.
So
Yes.
just so you can have the benefit of our conversation before you got here, you don't have to vote for 3. You can vote for 2 if you prefer. If you came in ready to vote for 3, then vote for 3. Got it? And put your name on the bottom, and then she'll take it. All right, everyone has voted? Wonderful. I think it's really strong that we had this many people here, so it's not like just quorum, so thank you all again. While we're waiting, because I'm sure it's my fault, gave our speakers the wrong time, told them 9, or maybe we did that before we changed the time, I don't know. But we're going to go ahead and talk about the Commission on Human Trafficking. Dottie.
Yes, I am very excited that the Commission on Human Trafficking met, I can't remember the date that we met, but anyway, I brought up the fact that, the Commission on the Status of Women were really trying to get another mural in Tampa. And the Commission on Human Trafficking, they were very excited about that project. So they invited myself, and then I invited Nicole to come and present what the mural was, the history behind the mural in the past. Good morning. And so Nicole and I will be making a presentation to the Commission on Human Trafficking. There are several business people and organizations on that commission. So we're hoping to get some momentum going from the Commission on Human Trafficking to really help push this mural project along. So
Exciting.
very,
Remember way back when they got established, they were interested in helping. We talked to them, so that's good. It's all come back around.
so that's the latest on that. Nicole, do you want to add anything to that? Okay.
Oh, and you know what's not on here? I think we needed to vote on your alternate.
Oh, we
Did we do
didn't
that
vote on
before?
that yet?
I don't think so. Carmen, did we vote on Dottie's alternate for the, didn't we?
I thought we did, and I thought that
great.
she
Maybe
had
it's on
been
the
confirmed by
minutes.
the BOCC. Is that correct? Who was-
Yes, I believe Ms.
Ms.
Brown,
Ms. Webbs, I thought it was. Ms.
you will be
Webster.
the alternate for the human trafficking?
I
No,
thought it was Ms. Webster,
I'm sorry. Correct, it is Ms. Webster.
and she's not here today.
And
Looking at the
her,
minutes.
because she is so new, the BOCC, Ms. Luann, already has her information. So she just needs to be appointed.
So we don't have to nominate her? I don't see that it was on here. Rosa.
I thought she was,
Oh, Rosa Webster.
yeah, I thought she was already
I thought she was already
selected by you.
confirmed.
Yeah,
by the
confirmed by this
BOCC.
board.
So she's, I assume she's,
Yeah,
then is it up to this body to officially appoint her?
no, I think it's right.
To human trafficking it is, because we appointed Dottie.
She's a replacement. She's a replacement.
Yeah, she was the replacement for
Yes.
T. Solomon.
She,
We
And
felt really badly until we
I was
realized she's
like, why
brand
don't
new.
they know who she is?
yeah, she's brand new. But yeah, so we talked about, but I don't see it in the minutes that we voted on it. So why don't we just go ahead and do that since we got everybody here?
okay.
Joining the commission.
Yes.
And going to be Dottie.
Yeah, and I think she's been to a meeting. Hasn't she been to a meeting?
Yeah,
she has.
Yeah.
I think she was at the
Meeting or two.
meeting where we decided, and
Yeah,
she
yeah.
decided she wanted to be the alternate.
Yeah, I think that was September. but we couldn't have
Yeah.
voted in October because it was virtual. So let's go ahead. I'll take a nomination. So just to be clear, Dottie can't be there all the time, but we want somebody from our group in the room at the Commission on Human Trafficking for the county. So we wanted to appoint an alternate if and when Dottie can't come. So it was Rosa Webster. So I'll take a motion.
I will move that Rosa Webster.
I don't think your mic.
I will move that Rosa Webster be the alternate representative from the COSW to the Hillsborough County Commission on Human Trafficking.
Thank you. Lauren? Any more discussion about that? That's clear. Wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. And that is really, really wonderful news. It would be so cool if we could
And
get that
could I
going
just
again.
ask a question, just to make sure I'm doing everything within sunshine? When I'm not able to go to those meetings, do I let Carmen know so she can let Rosa know, or can I contact her directly? How? No.
No,
Okay.
let me know,
I'll let
please.
you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Would it
Just wanna
make
make
sense for her to, could she attend as a guest so that she's in the
That's
loop?
a
Oh,
nice
yes,
idea.
she can. It's open to the public and she can attend. Absolutely.
I would suggest you do that, otherwise
she
she's
just
not bringing
come
much
all the
value as an
time.
alternate if she doesn't know.
Good point.
Okay, could you let her know that? Because I don't know if I can.
I can send her the schedules and, yeah, coordinate with that board.
Yeah,
Okay.
just let her know
Thank
that,
you.
love for her to go. Great, thank you, good point. The meeting calendar, very exciting. I don't really understand why we have to vote on it every year, but we do. It basically is going to track the same fourth Tuesday of the month with no meeting in July, no meeting in December. We did move it to 8 o'clock, just trying to get it to be decent for everybody, but between traffic and trainers, obviously it's not the best time, but it seems to be better than 9. So that is the plan. So if you want to just peruse that real quick and see if those work for you, then I'll take a motion on that as well.
I move we accept the 2024 calendar.
Second.
Thank you. Any additional discussion, time, date? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. All right. So now we, oh, we have, great.
Yep, we have the results. We had board member, Ms. Nelsie Box, she voted online, and she was able to because we do have a in-person quorum, and Ms. Phillips also voted.
Oh, wow.
So we have
Almost everybody.
Ms. Alex Sink, we have Ms. Nancy Milan, and we have Ms. Dee Williams as the third most voted for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now I guess we take a vote to make that official. Is that true? Let's have a motion and then we can have any discussion.
For purposes of discussion, I move that we select Alex Sink, Nancy Milan, and Dee Williams as the 2024 Women's Hall of Fame honorees.
Can I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Now, can we have discussion? I will ask staff, was it close? Or was there a big gap between any of them? Because as we said, we don't have to do 3. And if somebody got 4, but the next person got 2,
No,
that's not.
the most votes were for Ms. Alex Sink.
How many
And this,
votes?
they had, she had 12 votes. Ms. Milan had 8 votes. And then there was a tie between Ms. Marsha Passmore and Ms. Dee Williams until we received the last voting ballot. And that was 6 for Ms. Dee Williams and 5 for Ms. Marsha Passmore.
How do we feel about that?
I think that's.
Did you collect, didn't Rosa email her vote this morning or last night? She wasn't mentioned in the,
Who?
Rosa Webster, I think, emailed her list.
Might be helpful.
She picked.
Did she send it to everybody? Oh,
I
sounds like
guess
she sent it to everybody.
She
Yeah.
replied all at 2:11 this morning.
Yeah, I know
We-
she had a family emergency.
I don't,
No.
The way it looks on my phone, I can't tell who she actually voted for because the lines are not lining up, but.
So we have 12, 8, 6, and 5.
Yeah.
So we have in the past, sometimes we could make a decision that we only have 2 honorees, or we have sometimes voted when
When it's that close.
when the third slot has been that close. We've done a full vote, like a second round of voting, just for the third.
The second slot is really close too. I mean, it's just 2 votes away.
So which, for what, which one are you talking about?
I mean, Nancy got 8 votes, Dee Williams got 6. and
Right.
you're 5.
Okay,
I mean, it's kind of it's a close vote
Can
between
you go
those
share
3.
that with Craig?
Okay.
All right.
so it is possible we could also decide to take the next 3, like Alex is a clear rise to the top, but the next 3, and have us all vote on those particular 3
Well,
candidates.
the numbers changed a little bit with Rosa's
Ah.
vote, so let's hang on one second.
I just still, in my mind, there's one that isn't quite as seasoned as some of the others. So that's still in my mind. That's all I'm going to say.
Do we have to take a vote on that? We're
We
good.
do, that's why we're doing the discussion. We've got a
Okay.
motion in a second, so we're doing the discussion. So
All right.
the numbers have changed as follows?
Okay, so the last ballot, what it did, it increased one more vote for Ms. Milan. It added one more vote for Ms. Sherry Hobeck, but she has 3 votes. And then it also added 1 vote for Ms. Cindy Sofarelli, and that's the only vote she received. So it didn't change the 3.
But it
And
made,
that is-
6, and 5.
Yes,
Mary
12,
Pat?
9, 6, and 5, correct.
Mary Beth, no, you're good.
Right, 12 and 9, maybe.
That's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Mhm.
Because, and I'm brand new, so my lack of knowledge and ignorance may
No,
show up.
please, not at all.
I guess typically in a situation like that, you would take the 3rd and 4th, not necessarily the 1st and 2nd, because those seem to be in terms of majority. So would we not vote for the last 2?
I think that's what we're thinking. Yeah.
So so we're thinking about that. We've, in the past, some of us who've been around for a while, there's different things we've done over the years. So sometimes for that third position, we've done exactly what you're saying, like a new round of voting for the final slot. Or in 1 or 2 years, we've made the decision only to have 2 candidates. So we can do either decision in this.
And if there's a revote, it's just on the 2?
It's just on the 2, but
That
right now
are
that there's a
close,
clear,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
I think 12 and 9 becomes clear.
yeah.
I have a question that's really open to the group for discussion, and if it's not appropriate, just let me know. But I have 2 questions. One is for the 3rd and 4th candidates. I don't know them. So I don't know if, they both sound super remarkable to me. And so I'm wondering if there's intel in the room that could share why you voted one way or the other. And then the other thing is, do any present a opportunity to be more diverse in our candidates?
Good second question. I don't know that I'm super comfortable with the first, but again, the folks who've been around longer can say. I don't want us campaigning for one or the
Yeah,
other.
no, I mean,
you
there
know.
was one time, but I don't think it was for this. I think it might have been, no, was it for the, it might have been for, it might have been for the yay, where
Oh,
we
yeah.
asked, for some feedback. I just think that that's tricky because then our personal preferences come in. And there are years when, you don't know, like this is an unusual year for me to know virtually all of the candidates, but many years there's people that we selected I didn't, have any knowledge of. So you're voting on the merits as presented in their package.
So it's Dee Williams and Marcia Passmore, right? If I'm
Yeah.
Remembering this correctly. So yeah, yeah. You guys have never done it where you throw the whole group out again, do you? Not except for the top 2? That sounds like a
No, because I think
nightmare.
that's
Okay.
disrespectful to the
Just
people who
a
had a
nightmare.
clear.
Okay.
Although I like I do like the idea of the vote either being to keep 2 candidates, so voting
Right.
for no candidate or one of these 2.
So we're in discussion, so it'd be like
So
a
we need
friendly
to-
amendment, or we vote this down?
Yeah, I think we
Vote this
well,
down
I'm not going to tell you how to
for-
vote, but, and then
And
make a
then
motion.
make a new motion?
Actually, before we complete this discussion, I guess, nope, just went out of my head.
I think that's the.
Right.
That seems to be the big decision. Do we,
No, it
which
doesn't make a
route do we
difference.
go?
Well, no, I don't know that for sure, actually.
Or can I withdraw my motion if it's been seconded?
I'm not the
Yeah,
Robert's
but then
rules
the
girl.
second can withdraw their motion. Person
So
who
if the,
seconded.
if the maker and seconder withdraw, then we could just make a decision first about what direction we want to go with
I
the
believe
third.
That is correct.
Why don't
All right,
I
I
just
was
call
the
the question
second.
and we vote it or not?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to call the question. All those in favor? Oh,
So
sorry.
the motion was to accept the top three candidates, which at the time still haven't changed. It would be Alex Sink, Nancy Milan, and Dee Williams as the 2024 honorees.
So if you
So
don't
if
agree
we-
with that, vote no.
So if we vote that down, then we're going to have the secondary discussion about 3 candidates or 2 candidates.
Okay. So, everybody clear on
Yes.
that? All in favor?
No.
I was going to ask all those opposed.
Yeah.
Oh,
All those opposed?
no. Opposed.
Which means that we can talk again about.
Thank you all. All right, so now
There's
let's
no
continue
doubt.
the discussion.
It's okay.
So now the question becomes, do we just accept 2 or do we vote again and pick 3? So,
12, 9, 6, and 5.
right. So how can we have this discussion?
Clarification, please. Oh, with
Are
that
you on mic?
motion-
I can't.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, she's not.
You have to turn the red light on.
Oh,
And you got to
Is
share.
it-
It's okay, this is new. Marsha, it's new.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome to being recorded.
I just was asking for clarification of the new motion, so I make sure that I understood exactly what.
So now we
And I
don't
didn't hear
have,
a second, so I don't know if there was a second. for
there
that.
is, so we just voted down the original motion.
Right, uh-huh,
And now there is no motion on the floor. Now we're discussing
okay.
options, and then at some point, somebody's gonna have to make a motion to vote up or down the various options.
Yeah, and at this point, the 2 things would be either only having 2 this year or voting again to pick a third.
I recommend voting to pick a third because I saw the value of having a third voice last year. It was a beautiful cadence for our luncheon
is
and
nice.
also from a fundraising perspective, it might draw a different crowd of people.
Mhm.
Are you making a motion?
But if I would discussion if I haven't had enough coffee.
You could, and then.
No, go ahead, make it as a
I
motion.
make that motion, but I more.
And second?
I will second.
Okay, so additional discussion on that motion. The motion being to vote again and have a third for the reasons stated.
I agree with the motion that was made. I do also feel like that third party brings additional attendees. So not only, we started this discussion with, we had an incredible group of nominees and to have such wonderful women to choose from, why would we not include a third with the bonus of additional fundraising opportunity?
And I will say that diversity in the sense of county is the case with either candidate. So there's validity there as well.
And they're both lovely, and they've done a lot.
Yeah. Any other discussion on this? Otherwise, I guess we'll vote.
So I just want to clarify that we're basically not going to just vote for 2. We're going to,
Now, if we vote yes on this motion, then we'll vote again on the 2 bottom folk,
okay.
so to
2
speak.
bottom,
And then we'll
2 bottom.
eventually have to probably have the motion for the 3 final.
Yeah, to accept all of them. Yep,
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so any further discussion on this motion? Is everybody clear on the motion? So the motion is to vote again on the 2 bottom ones and make a selection. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right, so now we have to vote on those 2. How would you like to do that, Carmen? Do you want us to sort of scribble our names down on a piece of paper? Or one, I think that's probably fine. Can we just use like the back of our,
No, like a note to self is sometimes you need more than one set of ballots.
But we're just,
With
so
this
just
group.
write,
Xerox machine.
write your selection of the two and your name. Yes, thank you, and your name.
Well, she gave us another piece of paper, another vote. She gave us another ballot.
Oh, you have
Oh, we
another
have
one, okay.
second ballot.
I would just like to make a suggestion to reuse the ballots that you guys have already written on and just write the name or circle the person that you'd
That'll
like to
be
select.
fine. Yeah. But now we have to figure out who's who.
Well, if they have
I already told my
So it's between Marcia
Marcia
Passmore and Dee Williams.
And Dee Williams, yes, indeed.
Yeah. So.
At least I don't-
Mine is in blue ink, though. That's
And that would be D.
It's too early to think this hard.
Madam Chair, would you like us to circle the name, or how would you like us to differentiate it?
Oh, Carmen, I didn't get mine back.
What do you think? You want us to circle our choice?
Oh,
Write it down?
Well, on some of them, they were already circled.
Okay.
So I would suggest
Write it
just
at
like
the bottom.
writing at the bottom, like initials.
She's been very
Initials will
specific.
probably be the easiest, so you don't have to write the whole name out.
Okay. So initials or full name written at the bottom of your personal ballot of your choice. Thank you.
So we are circling,
No, we're writing,
write it, okay.
because some people already circled. Oh, yeah, I guess. I think she was saying you could write the initials of the person instead of writing out the whole name, but
right, okay.
doesn't matter. Take them back.
It's an imperfect process, but the results that it yields.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm saying this was smoother than some years. Some years it's gone on and on and on.
There were two outstanding candidates.
Yeah,
One,
can't go
the
wrong.
first two.
How close the votes were and how many votes the third options got swayed me from your thought that we only needed two. So.
See, I know Marsha Brown by sight,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't know. I was saying, you know her.
Oh, yeah. She's famous. Marsha's famous.
So Ms. Passmore has a very impressive resume.
Yeah.
She began as a member of professional business and professional women's club. Support for the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, the Equal Pay Act.
Very, very engaged. And in a community Plant City's very conservative. I see, I view that as bravery.
Oh, okay.
Right, to kind of swim against the current. And she's a nice lady. I mean, but Dee's very nice too. I don't know her as well as
I'm pretty sure I know her by sight.
yeah, you will.
I have a lot of Facebook friends. You might be on my Facebook. I have like 5,000 friends. Let's see if she's there. Make her a friend.
She wants to be your friend.
There's someone here with no picture of Marsha Passmore. I don't think she's on Facebook.
She might not be. I am not.
Are we ready?
Yes, ma'am. So for the two candidates on the third place, it was Ms. Marsha Passmore and Ms. Dee Williams. Ms. Dee Williams received an extra 5 votes, which escalated her votes to 11 points. And then Ms. Marsha Passmore had an additional 8 votes, which made her have 13. So she would be the third candidate inductee.
Point of clarification, when
Yeah,
you
I'm
say
curious.
extra votes, is it because the people who already voted for her, for each of these candidates continued to vote? Like nobody changed their vote? Because it's not an add-on, it should be a,
The total of the new vote.
yeah.
Yeah.
And still, the total of the new votes without including the previous ones is Ms. D. Williams received 5 and Ms. Passmore received 8.
Okay, so that's.
Okay, so that's a total of 13 and there are 13 voters.
Right.
Cool. Well, and that's a nice margin.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with 3. So now I will entertain a motion to accept the 2024 Women's Hall of Fame honorees as Alex Sink, Nancy Milan, and Marsha Passmore.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? You're just ready to say
I'm
yes.
just ready to say aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Motion carries unanimously.
Work, you guys.
Very nice.
Democracy at
Cool.
work.
All righty. Now, I'm very happy to say, and thank you for being patient and also coming early because got the time wrong. But I'm very happy to present to you all Dr. Fred Hicks, who is the CEO of the Early Learning Coalition, and Sabrina Ruiz, who is their Director of Family Services Operations, to talk to us about the ELC and then take some questions at the end, potentially to see how maybe where we fit into this whole thing. More, welcome.
Please don't leave for a ball. I applaud you all this morning. I woke up, it was cold. I mean, you felt it, right? I was literally born and raised down in Miami-Dade County, and we bring you all a little bit of swag. So first things first, we're going to talk about brain development just slightly this morning. And so as a constant reminder, we're bringing you a small green brain.
We carry our brains wherever we go.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And as many of you voted this morning, I was listening intently about not only your perfect language or your perfect usage of subject and verbs. We know that all of that begins when a child is born. Wow. When a child arrives here with us to join us here in Hillsborough County.
Thank you,
We
sir.
are going to have a wonderful time. As you grab that brain this morning, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze.
Squeeze that brain.
And just know that it is mission critical for all of us to participate in that brain development. I'm not sure if I'm going to overspeak the mic. Next slide. It starts here. We don't have volume on the, yes. He's going to give us some sound. Mm-hmm. Oh, now we have sound.
Okay, now I'm gonna lower just a bit because I feel like it's.
Bring it up. We have tech support this morning.
What always stresses me out the most in presentations is the tech.
Did it restart? There we go. But we have the balance of the presentation.
Did you park in the garage? Was the gate up when you came in? Okay. I hope. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm on the 6, yeah. Just wanted to be able to get out of the garage.
All right, we think we have a green light. So both Violet and Theo remind us of a couple of key facts. The first one is 90% of that brain develops by the time a child turns 5 years old. 90%. So as you squeeze that brain, as your reminder, just know that we only have a short window of time to ensure that every child sits down in kindergarten ready for school, ready for elementary, with the same level of curiosity, wonder, and awe about the world, their own sense of self-esteem, their ability to say a few letters correctly, and to start putting numbers in order. It doesn't mean that they sit down in kindergarten reading books. No, ready for school is even more basic. It involves those social emotional abilities of every child to sit and absorb what that kindergarten teacher brings to the table. Every child deserves that same equal access to successful educational early learning experiences. Unfortunately, 45% of our families here in Hillsborough County cannot afford to put food on the table, keep their lights turned on, ensure that the rent is paid timely, nor other basic needs. This reality is compacted by high inflation and complex situations that involve multiple jobs and very little time to provide input before a child turns 5 years old. 50% of all children sitting down in kindergarten, day one, are tested and assessed not ready. 50%. That's every other child. So look to your right and look to your left and determine who's not going to be ready in kindergarten. Let that sink in for a moment. 90, 45, 50. This is why we wake up. This is why we come to work at the Early Learning Coalition, where our primary focus is to ensure that every child is ready for kindergarten, so that every child thrives come day one. We work collaboratively with hundreds of other power players here in the state of Florida, and especially here in Hillsborough County, to ensure that here in Hillsborough, close to 30,000 children a year are served with the primary goal of ensuring that they are ready for kindergarten come day one. Parents participate as much as they possibly can in this current complex economic situation that is compounded with concerns for housing, child safety, and mental health, primarily stemming from a whole host of complications. Our child care centers and family homes struggle as well. Many of those are small business owners, women, who struggle economically themselves to continue to keep the doors open. Their employees on average only make about $12 or $13 an hour. It is a harsh reality and a complex problem, not just in Hillsborough, but nationwide. Our mission at the Early Learning Coalition is to ensure that those children birth to 5 are ready. Our vision is to ensure that we are a thriving community. And listed on your screen are our core values of integrity, collaboration, equity, as well as accountability, innovation, consistency, transparency, and benevolence. We hold ourselves accountable when a child gets removed from a classroom. We hold ourselves accountable if an accreditation is not achieved by an early learning center. And we hold ourselves accountable if a parent walks in and he or she does not provide us with the necessary documentation so that we can get their child enrolled. We're not hurting the parents, we're hurting the child. And we hold ourselves accountable to ensure that we wake up and do our best every single day. And we'll stay up after hours to ensure that we hit the mark. Today, I'm joined by one of our esteemed directors, Ms. Sabrina Ruiz, who's going to provide you more details about our access, our quality, and our education efforts.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us, first and foremost. As a former Hillsborough County Public School Administrator, I served as an assistant principal for 6 years and a principal for 3 years here in Hillsborough County before joining the Early Learning Coalition. And I have seen firsthand when Dr. Hicks reads those statistics of kindergarten ready versus not ready. I've seen it year after year, firsthand, starting on day one, and I see the miracles that our kindergarten teachers do every single year to make sure that they end the year way more prepared than the way our children started. So kudos to kindergarten teachers, early learning teachers for everything that they're doing. Our main pillars at the Early Learning Coalition are the three that Dr. Hicks just mentioned: access, quality, and education. And the heart of what we do, of course, is school readiness, and that's funded through subsidized federal dollars to make sure that the families that qualify can get the early learning quality education that their children need. Another part of that are parents who apply who do not meet the income guidelines to receive the subsidized federal dollars. With that, we are privileged enough to have some partners, some local funding that help us with those families who are just over the threshold of that poverty line. Most recently, Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Bucks and his wife, Emily. We have a partnership with the Children's Board, BOCC, City of Tampa, that help to fund some of those local dollars for the families that do not qualify. We also insure VPK, and that's universal, right, for all of our 4-year-olds who are about to enter kindergarten. So we do all the processing, applications, and making sure that all of that is ready. Another piece of what we do, of course, is the quality piece and supporting of our educators, our early learning centers, our family child care homes. We do that by incentivizing those that are part of the coalition, financial assistance, even assistance most recently with some of the healthcare costs, because a lot of the roles in early childhood do not come with basic benefits like life insurance, health insurance, things like that. And so most recently, we've been able to help in some of those areas as well. Professional development, and also coaching and mentoring for our teachers and our center directors. Another piece of that, of course, is whether a family qualifies for our programming or not, we do offer childcare resource and referral services. So if there's a family who doesn't qualify that needs information about any childcare facilities, educational facilities, financial facilities, anything, we provide all of those resources. Every one of our intake counselors are trained to provide referral services for our entire community. We also have a few other partnerships. One of my favorites, On My Way to Kindergarten, which is a monthly, well, no, actually we did it 3 times a year last year, and it is a wonderful community event where we work with so many of our partners to bring awareness to parents that they are the first teacher. So whether they're enrolled in school or not, our parents are the first teacher, and we're doing a lot of work to empower our families. This year, we are launching a family engagement training initiative as well, which will be a series of courses for parents that they can select and sign up for free of charge. That will also be incentivized as well, because we know in order to get our children ready for kindergarten, it's not just the early daycare, it's not just the child care facility, it's not just the parent, it's not just the subsidies that gets them into the learning. It takes every stakeholder to surround and wrap around our children in Hillsborough County. So what does this mean for us, right? This is a commission on the status of women. The impact on women and early childhood education, the stats are right there. Women-owned businesses is the crux of early childhood. 92% of early education professionals are women. That's staggering. It's a very high number. 39% of all childcare facilities in Hillsborough County are run from the home. So we're talking about women running their businesses from the home, almost 40%. When we think about our clients, the families that we service, 87% of the households are female primary head of households. Most of those are not married. 8% of the primary female head of households are married. So we're talking about women doing the work day in, day out, and that's where we come in. We are here as your point of contacts. We are going to share our contact information both on the screen and in hard copies. But if you have any other questions, I know that Lee said that we would be open for some discussion at the end of our presentation. We are more than happy to answer any questions you have and see what we can do to continue our partnership moving forward. Thank you again.
Yeah, and just to frame those questions, which I'm sure there will be, we've been kind of in childcare trying to figure out where this body potentially can be, because there's a lot of great people like yourselves and United Way that are working in it. We're not the experts, but we can convene, we can make discussions. So I think probably a lot of the questions will be about that, but y'all go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how does Hillsborough County stack up against the other counties in the state of Florida?
That's a great question, and we like bragging, right? One, you saw Violet and Theo. We have the only marketing team in all of the 30 coalitions. Currently, our funding is third largest in the state. We recently heard about child care crisis, where all of the extra federal dollars will be removed starting September 1. Well, in Florida, because of some state legislators' wisdom, they held on to some of those federal dollars. And here in Hillsborough, we received the second largest allocation in the state of 32 million additional funds to get us through June 30th of 2024. That's when our heyday will arrive. What are we doing with those dollars? You just heard just a touch of some of the initiatives that we're providing to try to sustain the industry going forward. So overall, again, third largest coalition in terms of funding. We serve about 30,000 children. Broward County serves about 38,000 children. Miami-Dade serves about 45,000 children.
If I could brag on just one more point, it's not staggering. However, 50% of children in Hillsborough County are considered kindergarten ready with that early assessment. Those that come through the Early Learning Coalition, we actually scored at 52%. So that 2% is definitely worth, mentioning. We're just a little bit higher than overall county for the children that come through our programming.
I don't know how much background you have on what we've been discussing. I'm Mary Pat King. I'm with Girl Scouts of West Central Florida and have been in this role for several years. But to just frame what we've been discussing for probably about a year now is we see this as a women's issue. We see this both from the angle that you said, women as business owners, women as professionals, women as the teachers, but also women as employees of the county and women of employees in businesses throughout Hillsborough County. So we've talked about how can we be a convener of a conversation that connects the stakeholders, the women themselves, with the providers, with the experts like yourself, and with the county officials who can make decisions for their employees as one of the largest employers in the county, especially of women, and how can we support that connection and conversation to give the county officials a recommendation for how they could be a model for the country as an employer. And feel free to chime in if anyone thinks I'm taking this in a very specific direction, but that's where we landed the last time we discussed this, is that's a unique role that doesn't step on toes, but really brings the collaboration together and gives it a focus that could have a ripple effect beyond the county employer network.
So that's a great question. It's woven into a couple of, I want to say, points for us to clarify. One of which is many of these small businesses are not necessarily funded by the county, nor do they work for the county directly. In fact, the county does not run a child care facility throughout. However, as a model for empowering what women can bring to the table and that conversation that the county can have with many of those small businesses, one area is to ensure that many of the rules that block some of the family child care homes from having equal footing to the child care centers are controlled by some of the rules by zoning. We have a complex situation with zoning, and we need that support. Many of the small family homes would love to become large family homes and expand their business, but there are rules that block that movement forward, if you will. Second, I think that some of the deregulation efforts will be critical. If the county can ensure and support those deregulation efforts, it will further enable those smaller businesses to thrive. There are so many different complications that the rules are about 401 pages deep that have to be adhered to, plus any other county ordinances. So wherever there's room to alleviate some of that pressure, that would be wonderful to ensure the expansion of those businesses. More importantly, the stability of those businesses. From an advocacy standpoint, the county can ensure that we move in the same direction when we all go to Tallahassee. And one of the biggest points that we currently need to make is the fact that all of our childcare providers need to receive a higher rate of reimbursement. It is not just the coalition screaming for that assistance. It is for the sake of those small businesses sustaining and keeping those doors open. Without that business input, we lose. We recently held a children's summit, and I'll let Sabrina share the guts of that.
So we brought together a bunch of local business owners, leaders, county officials to talk just about this, right? How do we improve what we're doing in the childcare facilities? How do we improve kindergarten readiness rates? How does it take everyone to do such things? And you know, your question really did remind me of some of those major points in the summit. It does take all of us. And when you talk about what we can do for women to sustain the workforce, right? To incentivize it, to make it better for women that are doing what their heart is telling them to do, which is to care for children, because no one is in it for the money. We know that, right? There's no big payoff at the end. People are doing this because their heart is in it and they want to do right by children. It did remind me of some of the conversations that we had that day and just talking about family-friendly practices as well. As we think about Hillsborough County, you know, overall, and we think about how many of our businesses are predominantly female, women-led, employed, things like that. Are our employers, those decision makers, making decisions that are helpful to families in general, that are friendly to mothers, friendly to female business owners? And those are just some conversations that we started to have at the summit just a few weeks ago.
Just a follow-up question, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for all of that insight. The follow-up question is really the county itself as an employer of mothers at every salary level. You know, are there counties out there who already do this really well in terms of, as an employer, what they provide to be family friendly for those first 5 years?
The Miami-Dade County, as well as, oh my gosh, there's a county in Denver. There are 2 counties in Denver who have initiated this work. Let me give you an example. Many of the vouchers that we hand out are for those families that are above or right at 150% federal poverty level. Internally at the coalition, we have just provided, we're working out our own logistics, $1,000 per employee that they could use to assist with their child care needs. It's a stolen idea from the Early Learning Coalition in Miami-Dade, who stole it from DCF, Department of Children and Family Services, and the County Human Services in Miami-Dade, where they give out a supplement to ensure that the cost of child care is offset. A larger thread of programming happens in 2 counties in Denver. I don't want to quote them incorrectly. I can always email that detail to you, where Thrive by 5 was born. And within that whole initiative, the whole county, all of the different players, not-for-profits, for-profits, and for the philanthropists, moved in that same direction with Thrive by 5 movement. Everybody thriving by 5 meant, 1, if a parent needs to leave early to go pick up a sick child, please allow for it. If a family needs additional assistance to cover diapers, please allow for it. So all of those are woven into what an employer can do. And the children's movement has recently launched a huge program that the county should look into as an initiative to be a family-friendly Bosses for Babies initiative. So we could also send you that follow-up as well regarding bosses for babies. And that can be presented as a package to the county to say, look at some of these best practices that other businesses have decided to do, some of whom are not-for-profits, as an initiative to support that whole movement. And even though it's not flagged as for and supporting women, it certainly supports the growth and development of those children before they turn 5 years old.
So we have kind of a dual role with our issues forum. We both give guidance and advice to the Board of County Commissioners, but we also typically convene at some point and have a summit, not necessarily like yours, like a full day, but a few hours where we try to shine a light on something that maybe hasn't gotten enough attention. In this space, there are so many major players, right? When we're all volunteers, we don't come with money attached to us. So we really are trying to be the light shiners on something to give it more attention. So one of the ways that we initially got to talking about the county was really talking about like 0 to 2, the infant care, and how women are harmed in the workplace because women across also socioeconomic levels are harmed because we don't have enough childcare for the smallest of our children. And we talked initially about, is there a way for businesses, it's not going to be small, 25 person, the vast majority of businesses are, small businesses, but are some of the bigger players or consortiums of smaller businesses, is there a model for them standing up a child care center adjacent to their workplace? If not, and the biggest ones have child care centers in their workplace, but we know there's going to be a crisis in Hillsborough County, especially when funding diminishes. We're going to lose more of the child care facilities, and there are parts of our community that don't have enough access for people trying to stay in the workforce. So do you have any strategies for businesses to literally stand up child care centers? Is that a model anywhere?
An example of that would be Tampa General Hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, COVID did a number to that, obviously, but it was really helpful. As from someone who, has 120 employees, you get call-outs all the time from sick childcare, and someone has to, stay home with them, or they can't go to daycare, and bringing them to sick care was really helpful.
Larger entities are very successful at this because they have additional resources. Right. Short of having those additional resources, some of the legislation being discussed are one of the rules that I talked about. The book that has 401 must have regulations and compliance to those regulations in place is a huge barrier. There are 2 Florida senators who are pushing to have those removed for businesses interested in doing exactly what you're mentioning. That's going to be a complex answer because what happens if a child gets hurt? I'm not sure how far that legislation will move, but I am aware that there's discussion about how do we do it at a medium, small scale, because the larger ones can afford to do it. Yeah. And they hire childcare entities like some of our childcare family homes to come into the business space and conduct that work. That has been successful in a few areas, and I think that may end up being the model if it's financially viable for the company to do so. And that becomes, I think, a 3, 4, 5 year endeavor. Definitely won't be solved by June 30th, 2024, when the funding starts running short. The complex answer is absolutely, let's do it. Within that, there are a whole bunch of barriers that need to be ripped away or at least examined and minimized to get us across that finish line. A perfect example, Busch Gardens, down Busch, we have 6 to 8 child care centers and about 4 child care family homes just in that one area, if you will. 80 to 90% of all of the children dropped off there, their parents go off to work at Busch Gardens. I will speak to the owner of Busch Gardens. I'm taking along with me the CEO of the Community Foundation, Ms. Marlene, and we will have a conversation about what can you do? You can certainly afford it. Don't add another ride this year, but instead invest back into your employees and the well-being of your own business, because he and that entity can absolutely afford to do so. It is a viable wow answer for us, especially when you look at the number of parents who show up every morning who drop their kid off minutes before right down the street.
And a follow-up question, because I think about, again, Busch Gardens, they should, right? They've got the money. Will they? Remains to be seen. But for small businesses, because the vast majority of people work in small businesses, banding together, if they were to help stand up a childcare center in their neck of the woods where there isn't enough childcare, what kind of, and say there's 10 smaller business, what kind of, for lack of a better term, subsidy would private businesses need to pour into a childcare center to help that childcare center continue to be successful? Maybe the subsidy isn't attached to the specific staff member. Maybe it's attached to, we're going to make sure this center is a beacon of hope in our community where, all of these businesses are. Is there a model for that?
Yes, the state developed almost 3 years ago a system called contracted slots, where businesses could invest in the childcare needs for their employee. It was employee-centric. A revision of that could point to, you know what, I'm going to support, not to name a center in particular, ABC Learning Center. So that business could say, hey, I'm going to pay $5,000 a month because I have 6 employees who drop their kids off there every single day to cover the cost, to ensure that those kids also have the special behavioral specialists that may or may need to help those children, speech therapists or interventionists. That model, the state model, currently points to the employee to work out that one-on-one. It could point directly to the business to assist with the entire business. And that has nothing to do with the state regulations. So the duality of those two could solve one problem and get us past where we are. We can't stand at this podium and not mention some of the big players that are working within the school systems themselves. My daughter gets dropped off in the morning at Before Care at Boys and Girls Club, for example. Wonderful entity, also funded by the Children's Board. We know for a fact that that model seems to work. We have some schools that have recently closed. We could recommission those schools as early child care centers, bring in the childcare owners who've been in this business for years, who have the expertise and understand all the rules and regulations for infant care, for example, and children 0 to 2. Many of those parents, 3 months after they have a child, would be able to drop that child off at a community local school, retrofit as a childcare center, but run by one of the larger childcare industry experts on a day-to-day basis, and we could figure out that formula. So the good news is I'm in great conversation with our newly elected superintendent, newly appointed superintendent, and we think that the sky is the limit. We don't have a ton of time, and if you want to put a flashlight on a problem, that's one huge area that we could put the flashlight on. The second one is, in the middle of all of this melee, we know that parents are receiving 50-cent raises, $1 raise. That forces them over the eligibility cliff. And that doesn't just touch childcare. That touches many of the other services. So if we could go and march forward as a team to Tallahassee about 2 key areas, one being our childcare provider reimbursement rates, which will keep the doors open. The second is for my families. 50-cent raise should not kick them out of care, not just for childcare, but for all these other services, and force them down a line of poverty and despair that is just not recoverable, because the opposite is happening. They're refusing the raises, and that's the opposite of maintaining a nuclear family. We can't do that any longer. We have to figure this out.
Mary Pat, did you have another?
You're making me think about all the Department of Labor things that are coming down the pike possibly, and but I actually have a case study that you might want to look into in terms of a private partnership that focuses. So I do a lot of work in Sumter County, and the villages, I don't know if you're aware of how much the corporate owner of the villages has supported all of the families that work on the village's property, and it's really transforming Sumter County as a whole because they've created a school system to support, like, you name it. If you work at the Starbucks or you work at, as a doctor, you have access to these supports and services. And it's been a really positive thing for their area, to also just support overcoming generational poverty as well. So that would be a good one to look into.
Thank you very much. We will make sure we research that as well.
Angela Birdsong, appointed by Commissioner Pat Camp. So I'm hoping to take some of these ideas back to her. I just want to say, first of all, welcome, because as Commissioner on the status of women, I can't think of a more important issue that we're dealing with as women. And as Mindy said, it's not just the poor. It's every woman who gives birth to a baby. Where in the world are you going to put that child that's safe and secure? And they are going to get early learning too, because we have a lot of women who are in the workforce, and everything nowadays is for 2 incomes. Okay, women cannot afford to stay home. I did see a presentation by Dr. Fudge, and she did say that a simple thing we can do is help childcare workers get their certifications, and that it's really not a lot of money, but if we could raise small amounts of money to help these childcare workers so they can stay in what they're doing and make money, because that's another issue. They're not paid enough. So I'm hoping that you can suggest some small things that we can just get started on, because otherwise we get lost in the sauce. We throw up our hands. It's like too big. So even we could work with Dr. Fudge to get some certifications going. I think that USF is another employer that needs to step up to the plate. Sorry to say that. but I mean, a little bit more.
So the low-hanging fruit are some of what I mean, I could take up 2 days telling you about what we're doing with the 32 million that we received. Certifications are certainly a key component of that. So is accreditation for the centers. We are beefing up what we know puts money in the pockets of those teachers and puts money in the pockets of those centers themselves, because short of that, I don't want to return any money. Like, that's my buzz at the office. We have 32 million, we're not returning a penny, spend it. And make sure that we spend it in a manner that has an impact on the sustainability of the industry and keeping the teachers in the classroom because they can afford to stay there. So we have many credential certifications that Dr. Fudge and I have discussed, and that's in our $32 million allocation. We have a huge bucket for accreditation to ensure that those accreditations are embedded in there. And something people don't know that happens with the accreditation. The teachers have to be certified, and we're paying for that. And with the accreditations, the center has to pass certain levels of thresholds that the environment must maintain for those classrooms, and they have to show continuous effort and employment to ensure the raises for those teachers. That is a part of those accreditations like Apple and NACE, which are huge, and national. Something that I wanted to make sure that you're also aware of is when we say that we have a couple of low-hanging fruit, there's only 2 or 3 that are going to really impact those families directly. You mentioned one, accreditation is the second, but a third one is to ensure that everyone here understands that we are accountable. We go in and we say to those centers, barring health and safety concerns, right? We don't want to see any violations from the Department of Children and Family Services. But we go in and we say to them, show me the receipts for what you're doing. If we don't get those receipts for what they say they're doing, then we don't contract with them going forward because there's a problem. And if we think that they have done something egregious with those dollars, we report it, and there is a follow-up. So not only does the Early Learning Coalition help to monitor that, but we also bolster that effort to make sure that those childcare centers are doing the best that they possibly can by their employees, their directors, and those little ones that they're serving on a day-to-day basis. So knowing that we have a couple of low-hanging fruit that we could tackle, what's a middle tier, right? Something that's not far down the road that I think we can all pitch in on, other than going in January with the legislative support to help the families. That next tier up is to ensure that those families with a child with unique ability is also served. Of the 32 million, we separated 2.3 million, even though my original pledge was only 1 million, we doubled it to help those families who behavioral concerns are huge after COVID. We know that autism is a reality. I have an autistic son. He is now 20 years old. I'm sorry, he just turned 21. And it's a complex road to take. And many of those children will fall through the cracks if some of these centers close. So funding to assist with the screenings for those IEPs is mission critical. Something that county could help with from a financial standpoint is to ensure that they help to fund services towards those screenings for IEPs for parents and paying for behavioral specialists to help. Many of the children coming out of COVID don't know how to sit still and have other social emotional concerns that are now showing up more prevalent every single day. So we're seeing more kids be expelled. How does a child 0 to 3 get expelled? Behavioral concerns or a misdiagnosis or a lack of diagnosis of whatever the real issues are. So those I think are critical.
This is on a little bit of a different, it's the same continuum and financial barrier subject that we're talking about, but it's also corporations need to look into, and Department of Labor, benefits of paternal leave. So, I'll give you an example. The VA, for instance, gives a 3-month paid paternal leave. And, when you're trying to be competitive with benefits and whatnot in our space, like that's hard to go up against. But it also, think about all the people who can't even take off 2 weeks.
That's right.
So, this, of course, legislation, but it's another avenue in that first beginning bonding stage that I feel like is really important, in the infant life.
Bosses for Babies has on their website, on the Florida movement, a whole list, and that is one of those of the expansion components that they're suggesting that bosses start to do, right? Make sure that that's a paid leave. It's critical, and extend it if you can.
Yeah, so I think we're going to draw pretty much to a close because I want to respect everybody's time, although this is a great
Can
conversation.
I just have one quick follow-up?
All right, I see 3 people. Fine, go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering, when you say that there's low-hanging fruit, are you saying that we should look at some centers, maybe just adopt a center?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That might be an idea.
I don't know what
And we can
capacity
point
have
to
do
quite a
that.
few of them with low test scores and some impoverished zip codes to assist.
I think, I'm starting to see a little path here, but Dottie, did you have something else?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up with what Nicole said, how important that is. I know I'm working with a young mother who had unpaid maternity leave, and my organization had to help supplement her rent and her electric bill and all of that because unpaid maternity leave, she wanted to be with her newborn. So I can't, so important.
These same folks are being squeezed because my business now includes affordable and attainable housing. So it's the same people who are, having struggles with that. So these folks, it's just coming at them from every side. Mindy, did you have any final thoughts? So I guess I would just close with saying if, and we have to kind of talk, because I think this gives us some direction, frankly. And to me, it's now the audience is the BOCC potentially for this. But what would you tell us, knowing, I know you don't know a ton about what we do, but Mary Pat said it very well. What do you think we could do to help?
I think this discussion is a great first step.
Yeah.
But everyone discusses, right? Action is critical. And so as an action, I just whispered over to Sabrina on our team, I want you to do the closing because we need to empower everyone, especially women, because they're right at the problem, the complexities of your mom that goes home to take care of that child. No one else is there to fix those problems. So I think we need to let a different voice be heard.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. At the Early Learning Coalition, we have several initiative and project teams, project team leads. I would say that a great next step would to be think about the ideas that were generated from the discussion. go ahead and reach out to Dr. Hicks or to myself so that we can then see where those pieces of the puzzle fit within our project teams and see what can come forward, what we can develop further from the discussions, and what are some things that we can tackle as a group together. So definitely, if you have any ideas, anything that has bubbled to the surface that you want to discuss further, send it our way so that we can get it in the right niche and help to lead some of those initiatives and efforts.
Do you have a follow-up to the summit that you did? Like,
Yeah, if you would.
We
that's,
do. We just scheduled, the development committee met last week to go over our next steps. Our first step is to reach out to some of those businesses that were in attendance and work on those collaborations that we're going through from the business hat, and work through some of the ideas that were submitted during those conversations, because many of them start at those grassroots level and will save many of those doors from closing. Our first survival next step is keep the doors open. We have to keep the child care centers open. Yeah. And we need to make it affordable for the parents.
Thank you. Well, we operate in the sunshine as a group, unfortunately, so that limits a little bit how we can function, but we can certainly discuss how, maybe there's a subcommittee that can get together with you guys. I think we still have to notice it, but I don't know, we'll figure out the logistics, but this was great. This was
Thank
really
you.
very helpful.
Yes.
And I feel like it provided a lot of good direction for us potentially.
Awesome. Thank you again for having us.
Thank you. So do we as a group want to have any further discussion about that right now? Again, it's 9:30. I don't want to keep you guys too long if you don't want to be kept.
Do you have to go? Yeah, thank you very much.
Any old or new business then in the meantime?
Just, I guess with
Yeah.
old business now, the Women's Hall of Fame, the individuals that were not voted in, does somebody get in touch with them and let them know, or I'm just curious?
It would be to whoever nominated them. Yeah, nominated.
Yeah, staff will do that, but what's the order we do it in? I guess we tell them first so they can tell their people, and then we make an announcement of who are the honorees? Yeah.
Because to be honored,
Yeah.
you need to be present.
Oh, yeah, we need to give them the
You
date.
need to pick a date.
We have a
Yeah.
date. We do.
Yeah.
It's March 20th. March 20th, yeah.
So, yeah, good point. If they can't be there, then they can pick the next year.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. So we typically have a liaison for each of these nominees, awardees. Is there anybody who wants to put themselves forth for any of these three? Knows them? Yeah? Okay. You want to do? Alex? Great. Anybody for Marcia? Does anybody know Marcia? Okay, great. Thank you, Courtney. Cool. Yes, so Joanne will be in touch, and that falls under the Friends, so the sunshine is not quite so bright, thankfully. Thank you for that. Anything else we need for that? Okay, sponsorships, do we want to keep those levels the same? I think we just tweaked them recently. I think they're fine.
We have 3 living honorees.
Yeah, that was like last year. That was great. Very good.
And 2 are first. Milan is the first,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I think there's a
Alice
nice
Sink, I think she was the
diversity
first
there.
statewide, I think.
First
Woman?
Woman, yeah, and the second person holding that office too.
All kinds of good things.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'll talk to staff about the order of things. I'm sure Beth has some records from how we did that in order of telling people.
Yeah, we'll get confirmation.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all so much. Adjourned.
You know what, I met USF.
Great.
Involvement
no meeting.
outside of the campus of
Yes.
childcare.
Well, they are very engaged with the UACDC.
Nobody had time. I think we tried to do it when
Like
India was
very
there when I was
financially
first on here.
supported.
It was trying
Actually,
to
the
like
university
figure
does
out
a lot.
And the school